Hi, my name is Amber, and I'm going to be giving a speech about child abuse. Child abuse is physical, sexual, emotional mistreatment or neglect in children. Most children experience abuse in homes. Smaller amounts usually occur in organizations, schools, or communities that the child interacts with. There are four different types of neglect um, and abuse, which is, again, child neglect. That is where a responsible adult fails to provide adequate care for the child, which could be physical, that means failure to provide food, clothing, or hygiene. Emotional, failure to provide nurturing or affection. Educational, that means failure to enroll in a child in school. Medical, that would be failure to medicate the child or take him or her to the doctor. Physical abuse is physical aggression directed at a child by an adult. It can involve punching, striking, kicking, shoving, slapping, pulling hair, choking, or shaking a child. In today's society, we see a lot of parents doing the shaking baby syndrome, which is lifting your child up and shaking them until that causes serious damage. Shaking a child can cause shaking baby syndrome, and that can lead to swelling of the brain, oxygen deprivation, which leads pattern of failure to thrive, vomiting, seizures, bulging or tensing of the eyes, and this can also lead to death. Most nations with child abuse laws consider the infliction of physical injuries or actions that place a child in serious danger is a serious case of child abuse. Child sexual abuse is a form of child abuse in which adults or older adolescents abuse a child for sexual stimulation. Effects of child abuse includes guilt or self-blame, flashbacks, nightmares, insomnia, fear of things associated with the abuse. Approximately 15% of women and 5% of men were sexually abused when they were children. Most sexual abuse offenders are acquainted with their victims. Approximately 30% are relatives of the child. Most times brothers, uncles, friends of the family, cousins, and around 60% are often babysitters or neighbors. Strangers are the offenders in approximately 10% of child abuse cases. Emotional abuse is a big problem with children in today's society that deal with their parents. Out of all possible forms of abuse, emotional abuse is the hardest to define. It could include name calling, torture, destruction of a pet, extensive criticism, inappropriate or excessive demands. This means if your child is overweight and you say, hey, go upstairs and don't eat that, you're fat, or, your hair's ugly, that is a serious case of child abuse. Children don't know how to handle issues like this, so they are hurt by it. Causes of child abuse is usually, there's really no cause of child abuse. Understanding the cause of abuse is crucial to addressing the problem of child abuse. Parents who physically abuse their spouses are more likely than others to physically abuse their children. However, it is impossible to know whether it is a cause of child abuse or is it both marital strife or abuse. Substance abuse can be a major contributor to child abuse. When you're drunk and you're mad at something else, you tend to take it out on your child. That can lead physical and, emotional abuse. There are also other issues that come with child abuse. Um, Victims of emotional abuse may react by distracting themselves from the abuser, initializing the abusive words, or fighting back by insulting the abuser. Emotional abuse can result in abnormal or disrupt attachment disorder, a tendency for victims to blame themselves for the issues that have gone on at home with their parents or their abuser. People nowadays need to realize and understand and feel comfortable with the people they leave around their children. Your abuser can be anybody, from your brother to your sister to your uncle to anybody. You need to pay attention to who watches your children. It could be sexual, physical, emotional, or just straight up neglect. There's a lot of issues that can come from child abuse in the future of that child. Depression, not wanting to be in a relationship with someone, You just need to pay attention to who your children are around and pay attention to your children when they want to talk to you about something. Children tend to leave out the details of what goes on at school. You ask your child, how was your day? Even at daycare, you need to watch who your children are around at all times because you never know what's going to happen. Psychological effects, again, children with a history of neglect or physical abuse are at risk of developing psychological disorders. Um, dis- Disorganized attachment style. Disorganized attachment is associated with a number of developmental problems, including symptoms as well as anxiety, depression, and acting out symptoms. Your child will do anything for your attention. Pay attention to everything new that your child does. Victims of child abuse, it is claimed, also suffer from different types of physical health problems later in life. Some report to suffer from some type of chronic head, abnormal pelvic or muscle pain with a reason behind it. Child abuse victims know or believe that their abuse is or can be the cause of different health problems in adult life. Getting abused as a child will lead you to having issues in the future. Please pay attention again to who you send your child with or who you send your children with and who is around your child. Learning about child abuse and dealing with child abuse is two different things. Dealing with child abuse and experiencing child abuse, you need, again, please just pay attention to who your children are around. Thank you, and I hope you really learned something from my speech.